Hello everyone, this is MC Deck Discussions and I'm OhBSmall. And today we have another deck discussion, this time with Storm. And one last time I used the Limited Environment Draft Tournament. Again, we had all these awesome content creators who did that, but I limited my deck build to these draft picks. And this was for some bonus games. I wanted to play with at least a couple of extra heroes that I didn't play during the tournament, just to try them out, but also for Storm in particular. I'm planning on putting out another video with my next set of 10 favorite heroes, beyond the first set of 10, because I love lots of these heroes, but Storm is in the running as one of those, and I wanted to try her out and see, and even with this limited environment, how much I enjoy her, to see if she can make my next set of top 10. So I had multiple purposes here for doing another game in the limited environment that we had for our draft tournament. So in any case, let's get to it. Wielding the Weather with Surgical Skill is the name of the deck, and what that's relevant to is the inclusion of 3 copies of Leadership Skill. So one of my favorite cards, I mentioned this too in the gameplay when I went over this deck briefly, but we'll do more details here about the entire deck. So uses 3 leadership counters, max 1 per player, and has an interrupt. When an ally makes a basic thwart or basic attack action, remove 1 leadership counter from here. That ally gets +1 thwart and +1 ATK for that action. And the extra benefit here of this card is if you have multiple allies out, you can use it multiple times because this card doesn't exhaust. That also means you can use it up quickly. So I decided I wanted to really focus on getting these leadership skill cards out in play regularly and being able to enhance the thwarting and attacking to, with surgical skill, do exactly what I needed to do at any given time, especially in combination with her weather deck, right? So she had, and interestingly enough, I actually used this one, Clear Skies, way more than I've ever used it before. Like in the past, I would use this maybe once in a while to draw the extra card, but I was finding that, it could be beneficial to draw that extra card to be able to get a leadership skill out in play, since it's only 1 cost upgrade. And then, so I kept coming back to this time and time again, or it could provide that extra, because I got Uncanny in the video that I recorded, because I got Uncanny X-Men out in the very first round, that meant all the X-Men allies cost 1 fewer as well. So that was an extra reason to sometimes just draw an extra card to make it easier to play another X-Men ally. So I wanted to be able to, be able to see just how powerful she is without including any Make the Call. So notice in the events here, I have no copies of Make the Call, and those of you who've seen me build decks before know that Make the Call, I usually like including 3 copies of it. And I want to keep getting, my most important allies back. But here, I wanted every ally to be an important ally, because, as in an ally that could be effective in their attacking or thwarting, because of leadership skill and because of the weather deck, right? Because so Clear Skies could draw us a card. Hurricane could give us a retaliate, but also could remove 2 threat from a scheme. So if you remove 2 threat from a scheme, even somebody like, say, Pixie, right, who only has 1 thwart. Well, if you just remove 2 threat from a scheme, and then you have Pixie out, and then Pixie, you also have leadership skill out, now you just remove 4 threat from a scheme by just manipulating the weather using leadership skill plus any ally. So that kind of precision was really great. And then on the attack end, you could do that even more so, because we have Thunderstorm, where you can remove deal 2 damage to an enemy, which doesn't count it as an attack. And then each character gets +1 ATK. Now, of course, all the characters on the other side get that +1 ATK too. So you want to time all of this so that you don't give your opponent, the villain and their minions, an extra advantage of +1 ATK when they can gain a major advantage from that, right? You want to be able to, when you have your allies out to defend for you, then they get the +1 ATK. So you get the advantages, but you're defending so that those same advantages, when they occur for the villain, don't end up really being advantages. Right. And then, but I also included a couple of copies of Noble Sacrifice because I wanted to be able to get tough statuses here and there and heal up, because this deck was meant to be that we're staying in hero form the vast majority of the time. And part of that was, we didn't have Make the Call, so that meant I couldn't bring Professor X back again and again whenever I wanted to. Professor X just had basically that one try to come in, other than maybe Pixie coming into play and bringing Professor X back into your hand, which I did actually do in the recorded gameplay. And with Call for Backup, maybe it would be Professor X, but as you saw if you watched the game, I used Call for Backup to bring M back into play, which means I should probably talk about the allies real soon here. But I do want to also mention that I have Face the Past to get a little bit of that card draw, at least at some moment in the game. All right, so with that in mind, let's start getting to the allies and the rest of the deck. Oh, actually, I already brought up one support, so let's get the others. So we also have X-Jet here for some resource generation, at least when we're on the hero side. And then Utopia for some extra readying of an X-Men character, which in this case I did always use it to ready Storm, but it very well could have been possible because of leadership skill. There very well could have been times when it would have been more beneficial to ready an ally. So let's get to the allies now then. And since we already mentioned leadership skill, we might as well mention we also have X-Gene in here. And I specifically chose X-Gene because we do have superhero cards for the events, and X-Gene lets you generate a wild resource for an identity-specific event. So you could just use that, what is that card called again? What is that card called? Deft Focus. So I could have had Deft Focus out, but Deft Focus wouldn't be able to be used to play the defense card, Flash Freeze, and X-Gene can. So I decided on X-Gene instead of Deft Focus. All right, now let's get on over to the allies and the rest of the deck. So we have Beacon here, highly effective for removing a lot of threat. So already this deck can remove threat, but if Beak is coming out, a lot of times I might choose to deal damage instead with with my weather changes and allow Beak to remove the threat, or just enhance the ability to remove threat. Colossus gives that extra advantage of the toughness. So when you're playing against an ally, like I did in the recorded video against Captain America, this toughness could absorb the overkill attack, and it in fact did. So that was really nice to have that available. But then afterwards, of course, Colossus attacks for 3, which if you have your, which one is it? Thunderstorm. If Thunderstorm's in play, then it's +1 ATK on top of that. So that's 4. And with leadership skill, that could be 5. And I did in fact do an attack of 5 using that combination in the game. Cyclops, this was one card I didn't get a chance to get out here, but of course Cyclops has a great ability. If I had been able to use it, right, you can increase that damage from each attack by even more, and it would apply to any of the attack cards. Interestingly enough, like usually when I play Storm, I get at least 1 lightning bolt off for the big attack, but that never happened here, and we didn't really need it either because of the cards that we've already mentioned, the leadership skill plus the weather deck, allowing us to just keep control and deal relatively large amounts of damage when we wanted to. Then we have Forge, helping us to get not Uncanny X-Men, but either the X-Jet or Utopia into hand if we don't have it yet, and be able to play it. And that was another area where, again, going to get that extra card draw from Clear Skies. I think that's possibly how we got Utopia in, although I don't remember for sure. But in any case, it was that weather manipulation that could do whatever you needed to do when you needed to do it. And then Gentle didn't get in here, but Gentle is great at eliminating minions with the 3 attack, only takes 1 consequential, and of course a possibility of 4 attack with the leadership skill, 5 attack even, if we also have Thunderstorm out. And, that's enough to warrant also maybe sometimes going right after the villain at times, even though it takes 1 extra consequential if he attacks the villain. And we had Kid Omega, cheap ally to get out, plus 2 thwart, 2 attack. And if we want to, we have this extra response that we can either deal extra damage or remove some extra threat. M, that can outright defeat a minion, and especially if we have Uncanny X-Men giving +1 extra hit point, then M comes in. After M enters play, defeat a minion with fewer remaining hit points than M. M already has 4 hit points, but with Uncanny X-Men is 5, so you could immediately defeat any of the minions that have 4 or fewer health. But also you can manipulate things really easily, either attacking with Storm or attacking with one of the allies, but also just flipping to Thunderstorm, dealing 2 damage to an ally. Then you bring M out, and even a minion that has a lot of hit points is still going to be gone. So really nice in this deck. Phoenix, giving you that ability to choose an X-Men ally, ready that ally, and heal 1 damage from it, and so possibly doing even more attacking or thwarting, and again benefiting from leadership skill. The goal was to use leadership skill, be 3 copies so it could get out readily, but also with 3 copies that meant I could use it all the time. I would use it, for that precision thwarting or, what I needed, but also wanted to use it all the time because I knew some more were going to be coming again later. All right. And then we had Pixie with that hope of getting somebody back in hand, in this case, Professor X. Shadowcat has the ability to, basically make the side schemes lose one of these icons that are dangerous, and it did in fact could even remove the amplify icon, which was problematic in previous games with Captain America for me. And then White Queen, who's really nice at especially getting rid of the tough statuses on a villain like Captain America, but also Captain America's deck can stun you or confuse you, so it can really help with that as well. And overall, I think this is a strong deck against a lot of villains as well. All right, so for the events, I already mentioned those, and then player side schemes. So you notice we have 43 cards in here. If I had removed the player side schemes, I wouldn't need those, but I wanted to make sure I had extra chances to get out the X-Jet, Uncanny X-Men, or Utopia, so that's why I had build support in here. Call for backup, so that I had at least 1 chance to bring out a specific ally when wanted. I was thinking a lot of times that would likely be M, and in this game it was. Call for backup was the only side scheme that I actually ended up playing. And then superpower training, because Storm's Cape is pretty pricey, and I tend not to get Storm's Cape out, even though it's a great, it's a great upgrade. With how expensive it is, I almost never get it out on its own. So it was really nice having superpower training to have that possibility to get it out into play. But also, Storm's Crown, if I got superpower training out early enough, I could get Storm Crown in, and Storm's Crown could help you play the other cards, including the Cape. All right, and then for the resources, we have the usual doubles, and that covers the whole deck. All right, so I really enjoyed this deck a lot. Definitely Storm is still in contention for the next 10 heroes that'll be in my favorites. Her ability to manipulate things to do exactly what you want, especially in a leadership deck, because to me, leadership is really ideal for her because she can have Uncanny X-Men in, and because her best manipulation is being able to get +1 ATK on each character, and getting allies out for cheap is really beneficial. But I could see, other decks being good too, as long as you have lots of allies in it. But certainly, her decks are just begging to have a lot of allies in them to make the most use out of the weather deck. All right, that's it for today's video.